And now on the line is Andrew O'Reilly. Andrew is doing a fundraising cycle next month to raise awareness and money for CMT. Andrew, welcome to Near FM.
Thanks so much, Darren. Thanks again for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time to help me raise awareness about CMT. Big thanks for that.
All right, cool. Thanks. Andrew, I was talking to you by email over the last few days, and you were telling me your story in relation to CMT up to the present day and your cycle next month. For the benefit of any of our listeners, Andrew, who don't know your story and what CMT is, could you tell them a bit about your story in relation to CMT and indeed what CMT is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I suppose I'll start with what exactly CMT is. So it stands for Charcot-Marie-Tooth, and they're just the professors that discovered the disease over 100 years ago. And basically, it's a genetic disorder of the longest peripheral nerves in the body. So these are the nerves that connect to the muscles in your hands and feet. So the muscles in me particularly, my calves, my forearms are severely affected. So the muscle constantly relies on signals from your nervous system to survive. And once these signals become impaired through a genetic mutation or perhaps an injury, the muscle gradually weakens and breaks down. So it's the muscle's connection to its processor that is the issue in CMT rather than the actual muscle itself. And then, to go into a bit about me and my story with CMT. So I was diagnosed with CMT when I was 10 years old, and it initially started to affect my lower half of my body, so from my knees down, and mainly my feet. So my legs began to weaken in my calves, but really, it's the disease in my feet, and they started to become like deformed. I was really walking on the side of my feet. That was causing a lot of pain and a lot of ankle injuries, and many difficulties. I was a kid who really loved sports and football, so it really did impact that as I grew older. So then I suppose that takes me up to my first encounter with surgery with CMT. So as I mentioned, I was walking on the side of my feet, and the surgery then was aimed to straighten up my feet and also to kind of hold my ankle in place, because I don't actually have any movement in my ankle. So I can't move my foot left or right or up and down. I can't put my toe to the ceiling, those kind of things. So the surgery was to straighten up my foot and give it that support so I could walk a lot smoother and a lot more comfortable. And so the surgery was, the first one was when I was 15, and there was a tendon transfer and a part bone fusion. So essentially they moved tendons around my foot and they broke my ankle and put it in place, and there's pins to hold specific parts in place in both of my feet. So that was throughout my school years. That was quite difficult, I suppose, to handle when you're going through school. You're a teenager going through your teenage years, and I was in a cast across the two surgeries, probably up to 6 months. And that was difficult, but as a child, I always just found a way to, power on and get on with it and manage it. And so I did with that, and I continued on after the surgery. Then I would wear, and I to this day wear something called AFOs. So basically, they're the support, so I can walk a lot with a lot more balance, helping to not trip off my foot, because I now have something called foot drop, whereby my toe hits the ground before my heel. So that can cause a lot of it can cause trips, not focusing, or if I'm on unsteady ground. So I'm wearing them up to this day. And then in the meantime, so that was when I was 15 and 16, and then a few years later, up into my early 20s, my hands began to get worse, whereby the use of my thumb, I couldn't really move my thumb around too much. My fingers begin to kind of close in, they begin to claw over. So the first surgery that was suggested for my hands was that they could do a tendon transfer where they transfer a tendon from my finger into my thumb. Gives me a bit more usage of the thumb, and it definitely helped. It was a successful surgery. But then that kind of takes me just on the surgery side of it. It takes me up to recently, June, just earlier in June this year, it was suggested that I have more surgery on my hand because my wrist has become very weak. I can't even actually hold my hand up with my wrist, so it's very hard for me to lift things or do things with my hand. So now they've suggested having more surgery whereby they put a rod basically from my forearm up to the bottom of my hand, and that'll kind of hold it in place and give me support in that way. So that's kind of how CMT has affected me physically, and the surgeries that I've had to go through, and I might potentially have to go through in the upcoming months. And then, just due to the progression, because CMT is a disease that gets worse as we get older. In the past, I would say 5 to 6 years, the progression in my hands has been very rapid. And that has caused its own, mental health issues and challenges. So, while some of the CMT, it really is dealing with all the physical difficulties, it's highly likely that we will, and I did encounter, mental difficulties as well, trying to manage it.
Okay, it sounds like a very physically painful illness. Are you on morphine or anything, Andrew?
No, so we're not prescribed any pain medication. The doctors have always said, take some pain medication if you need it. But generally, I don't touch wood. There are bouts where I used to get really a lot of pain in my lower back from the way I walk in. If I'm not wearing my support, the foot drop, it can cause pain in different parts of my body. Because when I'm walking, I'm essentially walking with my hips and my all the top parts of my legs, because I don't have movement in my ankles to kind of push off that. It's my hip area, my lower back can get quite painful at times, but it's a funny one, because we need to keep busy and keep moving to try and prolong the effects of CMT. But then, when we do move, it can cause pain, but it also, helps to prolong those effects as well.
So, just thinking of it now, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most painful, how would you rate the condition of CMT to be to you?
Yeah, in different times it's been well above a 10. Going through the surgery as a teenager, they were extremely painful. When I came out the other side, they weren't just routine surgery. I think the first couple the surgeries on my feet took, I think, 5 or 6 hours. I was asleep for and getting operated on. So they're very long surgeries, and the pain through them were at 10. And then in recent years, progression in my hands. I get a lot of pain in my forearms and my hands if I'm doing just regular things that are easy for a lot of people. I'll be scrolling on my phone, I get a lot of pain in my hands, and at the highest point, that's certainly at a 10. Even the big event this summer is a cycle, but when I'm out for really long bike rides, my hands and my forearms can really hurt after that because I'm not really holding on to grip the handlebars. So, like the CMT, it is quite difficult in the pain department. Because finding ways to manage it, whether it's stretching or painkillers and these kind of things.
It sounds. I personally have never really suffered from physical health problems, so I'd be devastated if I had any kind of physical. I've never even broke a leg, so or I haven't broke any finger, any bone. Sorry, so I'm not too au fait with the physical pain side. Okay, Andrew. I interviewed Rob, who is my cousin, and he's your cousin as well, on the other side of the family. I interviewed him on this program last year about CMT. Can you remind our listeners, Andrew, for those who don't know, a bit about who Rob is and his work?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So as you mentioned, he's my cousin as well, and Rob was diagnosed, I believe, with CMT when he was around 13, and then when after his school years, he decided to dedicate his life into finding therapies and hopefully at the end of the day a cure for CMT. He went to study at Maynooth University, Galway University, and then over to Belgium. And now he's currently working in Bonn University in Germany, and he's researching therapies and hopefully a cure in the future for CMT, and we can eventually wipe this thing out.
Yeah, he's doing amazing work, apparently. Okay, Andrew, can you tell me more about the bike cycle you and Rob have next month?
Yeah, definitely. So, I really can't wait for it. So the bike cycle, we're cycling from Dublin to Athlone. That's going to be the first. That's going to be the stopover. Athlone, it'll be about 135 kilometers from Dublin to Athlone. And then we'll stay overnight there, and the next day we'll set off again first thing the next morning, and it's between 90 to 100 kilometres then that day as well. And then, when we get to Galway, we'll all celebrate, hopefully, and there'll be maybe some sore bodies, so we'll be resting up. But that's the day of the cycle. So, leading up to the cycle now, I'm trying to do my very best to promote it. To raise awareness for one, raise money for research as well. So we've got a lot of people who have already offered to support the cycle through, offering prizes for an event that I will be holding on the 26th of July, and offering donations as well. And I can do a bit about that as well if we'd like. But that's mainly the cycle on the day. That's the most on the weekend. That's the most exciting part for me. The lead up now is the spreading awareness and letting people know what CMT is and what we go through and what I go through living with CMT.
Okay, what were you, I missed what you said there about donations or something. You can talk more about that or something. What did you?
So at the end of July, I just recently mentioned it on the page, so the CMT Cycle Ireland page on Instagram and Facebook. So I'm holding a fundraising night, and I think this will be where a lot of our money is raised for the fundraiser. I'm hosting music bingo down in St. Jude's in Temple Oak. So in terms of people supporting the cycle, I've had many companies offering prizes for the event. I'm going to have a minimum of 16 prizes across the music bingo games, and then I'll be having raffles on the night as well. And people can get tickets to the event through the page, the CMT Cycle Ireland page, that's going to be a really, really great night.
Okay, let's go. Andrew, can you tell our listeners today who are TIN?
Yeah, definitely. So that's Therapies for Inherited Neuropathies. So that's a non-profit organisation in the US, and the founder of that, Steve O'Donnell, he also has CMT, the same type of CMT as myself and my family. So they've been doing work to raise money for research for CMT for, I believe, over 20 years. The reason why I teamed up with them, for one, Rob knows Steve very well through over his years in research for CMT. And also they've agreed, or they're making sure that 100% of the proceeds are going to CMT research. There's not going to be any overhead costs or anything like that. 100% of what's raised will be going fully to the research.
Okay.
And although Steve O'Donnell, he's going to be participating in the cycle virtually. We couldn't find a date whereby the three of us could do it from Dublin to Galway, so he's also going to be doing it in the US or wherever he is at the time. He's going to be cycling the 250 kilometres as well.
The money you and Rob raise for TIN, will that be going to the organisation in general or specifically for Rob's work, or what's the story?
Yeah, good question. So that's one of the reasons, the main reasons why we chose TIN is because they're making sure that it's all down to Rob's research, straight to his research lab, and he actually has a specific project lined up, whereby he's going to be taking some of my cells and he's going to isolate those cells and transfer them into stem cells, and then he'll be able to test them in the lab for therapies for CMT.
Yeah, okay. I find this amazing. Okay, Andrew, what will it achieve, or what do you and Rob hope it will achieve by isolating your cells and modelling them in Rob's lab?
So they'll be able to, from there, they can mimic the neuromuscular system. So my neuromuscular system, they can mimic that in the lab, and they'll be able to test it with different drugs to see what can either maybe reverse the effects of CMT or perhaps slow it down. So it essentially, it allows them to do drug screening against CMT in the lab and see what works best against it, or what works against it at all. Because currently there are no real treatments or cures right now. It's kind of just I suppose surgeries to help assist day-to-day living really and make it more comfortable.
Okay, hopefully you and Rob will be winning the Nobel Prize in the next few years.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, Andrew, it's great talking to you today in here. Just before you go, so the plan is over the next 6 weeks to raise awareness of your cycle, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's the big plan. So here I am. Hopefully, the listeners here will go and follow the CMT Cycle Ireland page, and you can donate to the project. There's a link in the bio, and I also have a video on how to donate as well. But if people aren't in a position to donate, I mean, sharing any details about my page on their social media or even through word of mouth to their friends will be a massive, massive help, because the further I can spread this, the more people will take note, and hopefully then bigger people with companies might come in and help with sponsorship or donations to the event as well. So it can all be found on the CMT Cycle Ireland page, and donations and sharing the project are both massive.